Oh, hello there. You weirdos, you freaks. You're here for this week's tale, aren't you? Yes, you are. I knew you'd be back. Back for another creepy, terrifying tale. And today we have a great one. This story will have you stopping in your tracks, because today's story is called Final Destination. A woman stands all alone, waiting patiently for a train. Standing on a platform, she's had a busy day and felt tired. Looking up continuously at the board, with its forever changing letters, words and numbers, shining orange in the darkness. It wasn't late. It was only 6 p.m, but the autumn season meant it was dark, and it was cold and dark early. She sat on the bench with her long coat and scarf. Then she stood as she heard a rumbling sound on the tracks. She had always wanted to take a solo journey. Tracy was 20, and this was the first time she'd ever used a train on her own. And this overnight journey seemed like the perfect adventure. Little did she know it would turn into the worst experience of her life. The train stopped. She felt uneasy as she stepped onto the train. The compartment was dimly lit, and the rhythmic clatter of the wheels against the track provided an eerie backdrop on her journey. Through the dark, empty countryside, her heart pounded with a mix of emotions, excitement and worry. The train had a few passengers, but at the first stop, the people on the carriage started to queue to get off at this platform. She starts to worry, then looks around all the empty seats. All of a sudden, she was the only passenger in her compartment of the train, or so she thought. Passenger information display started flashing and then turned off completely. How did she know where she was meant to get off? Where she was? Just as she started to relax a bit and calming herself down, thinking she would just use her phone or find a conductor, the lights on the train all flickered and turned off. As the train heads through a tunnel, she looks around desperately in the dark to see. Then the lights come back on, but they seem dimmer than before. She stops and peers around, and she spots movement at the end of the carriage. A mysterious figure appeared at the end of the corridor, hidden in the shadows. An uneasy feeling washed over her. She tried to dismiss the figure as a figure of her imagination. Her imagination must be playing tricks on her. She looked over, staring into the shadows of the carriage. However, the figure started to move. It started to move closer. Then she realized something was terribly wrong. The stranger from the shadows moved. She could see its face, shrouded in a tattered hood. It moved. It moved again with an unsettling, jittery jolt. Desperate to avoid any confrontation, she pulls out her phone and tries to call for help, but of course, There was no signal. Panic welled up as the mysterious figure approached, getting closer to her seat. The train continued its relentless journey through the empty night, with no signs of civilization in sight. The stranger's presence grew more. Tracy was trapped and terrified as the hooded figure finally started to move faster. She got up in a panic and dropped her scarf, then started to walk fast. Almost started running down the thin aisles, holding the seats on the rocky train to steady herself. The figure raised its head, revealing its face with a twisted smile. It screamed across the train, "This will be the last ride of your life!" The sound was terrible. Her heart raced, and a sinister realization sunk. This was the train to nowhere, a journey into the darkness which she might never return. All of a sudden, the train's wheels squeaked, screeched, the compartment lights flickering, and the horror of the nightmare journey continued with no escape in sight. She kept on moving down the train, slamming the buttons with the doors in between compartments, in between carriages, and every time she looked back, the figure got closer and closer. The train lights all went off, and Tracy tried to hide by the doors. She could feel the train slow down. The train stopped. The button by the door started to flash. She pushed the button, and the doors opened, and the figure pushed her from behind. She fell down, but there was no platform. She had fallen onto the tracks below. She looked up, but there was no train there. She turned to her left. Bright lights, and a train honking its horn. The next thing she knew, she can hear a thud as the train rumbles across the tracks. The train rumbles over the tracks. She could see her body. She came to the realization that her head was not attached to her body any longer. Her head had been sliced off. She could hear and see her body being ripped, her bones cracking in half, and her intestines spread out along the rails. Then she hears an announcement. This is your final destination. So yes, it really was her last journey, and her first and last ever train ride alone. But it makes me wonder, did she even take the train to begin with? I would just leave you thinking about that. Silly Tracy. Oh, she had a very, very gory ending. Thank you all for listening to this story today. Don't forget, have the most horrible day, and please subscribe. I did write this for you after all. At least you can do is just push a button. Goodbye, till next time.